You know, when you say, tell us if we, when we ask the question, what do we need in order to get back in here? They're very non-committal. And so essentially what happens is that we have to do our best to try to identify all the things that we think that they're going to be concerned about, and then call them out and see if they can, if they'll give us a pass. So we're in the process of doing that right now for Club 4 because we think we're pretty close. We've had power up now for Building 9 for about 2 weeks, Building 11 a little over a week. We have the alarm systems are powered; they're in test mode. But even though in test mode, we know when a sensor goes bad or something is capable of generating alarm. We have not had any false alarms in Building 9 for almost 2 weeks, and we've had no false alarms other than a miswiring, which in my view doesn't really count, for about a week in Building 11. But we're nowhere close to that in the other buildings, and so you know Club 4 is going to kind of be the guinea pig here, hopefully sooner rather than later, to see what they actually say when they see what condition we're in.
One of the things I should point out is Club 4 suffered a minuscule amount of damage compared to the other buildings. We had some stucco damage where cars hit in the garage. We had our mailbox knocked out. That was it. No walls were down. No pipes were broken. Everything electrical got flooded. Of course, the alarms, the elevator, the power, the garage was all same as everybody else's. But we had no structural damage. We had no, we had no frangible or breakaway walls collapse. None of that stuff. None of our tile was damaged. We did lose our doors. Some of them rather spectacular, including John's door in his storage unit. In our building, we were lucky there's nobody staying in it because both doors were jammed so much they couldn't be opened until we got an angle grinder out, just so you know. But the thing we're going to talk about now is fire is very important. There's the red tags, which means something, which we're not really sure because the fire department doesn't really tell us. But the thing we are also very sure of is what's required to stand a fire watch. Under the law for many years, if any of your fire protection systems are not working, you have to have somebody walk the building every hour, check every space, and log it. We've done fire watches in the past. We've always had an elevator. The person doing the watch would take the elevator to the top, walk down each of the floors, check each of the storage units, and sign off that it's safe. The things you have to have for that is if your building has sprinklers, you have to have working sprinklers. For sprinklers to work, you have to have a working fire pump. You have to have a working fire alarm. If you have a fire alarm, if you have standpipes that are pressurized or unpressurized, they need to be in a working situation.
Check and see if there's anybody waiting in line.
Thank you. We're up over 210 participants now, which is a new number for this. So basically, Club 4 meets that criteria. All the other clubs are getting fairly close. The reason we're a little bit ahead is we used a different firm to do our fire alarms than the rest of the clubs. We switched about 4 or 5 months ago, and the firm we used came out and fixed our alarms and got them working very quickly. The firm that the other clubs are using has not delivered very well. In fact, we went out and got bids from other firms and are looking at possibly replacing them. We're trying very hard to get the alarms up because we see that as one of the 2 critical steps. Each of the other clubs has 2 things that are preventing it from going, but they're all close. Club 1 needs to get some standpipes fixed. The money just made it to the standpipe firm that ordered the parts on Friday. Actually, they got Thursday and they're going to order the parts last Friday. And they have a fire alarm that's tripping. When we first turned on that alarm and the vendor said it was good to go, that weekend we had either 5 or 6 false alarms to the fire department, at which point we turned all the alarms back to test mode. I was evaluating the quality of an outside firm to do the alarm stuff. And on Wednesday, we went to a building and it was building 6, which is Club 2. They had 24 known faults in the building after the guy went there and worked on it. And this guy spent 6 hours and cleared 20 of them. So the fire alarms are a big issue, even though the firm kind of did their pass. It's not running for very long without the false alarm going off, which even if you could live in it, the alarm goes off at 2 in the morning, you're going to be incredibly unhappy because those of you who haven't heard it, it's actually physically painful how loud the alarm is. You have it going off 6 times in 24-hour or 30-hour period would make somebody very, very upset. So even though we're going to work hard to get it so you can legally come down, I would encourage you to kind of wait till we have a couple weeks without a false alarm before you truck on down here and depend on it. My wife and I are going to move in as soon as they let us do that. But our fallback is the place we're staying now is 1.5 miles away. And if it goes off, we're just going to go there that night and worry about it the next day. But we're going to have this transition period from where the alarm is kind of legal, but we hopefully, don't have too many false alarms, but I can't guarantee that. So Club 1 needs to have the alarm fixed, as does 2 and 3. Club 1 and 3 have issues with standpipes. Club 2 has an issue with the fire pump. All of those things are waiting on parts or people to show up. But we're getting kind of close in those, and I don't know how fast it'll happen. We're entering Thanksgiving week, which means there's 2.5 work days. And then we have like 15 days in December and everybody goes on Christmas vacation. So I'm trying to work that stuff through, but I'm at the mercy of the vendors basically. But as I said before, we don't really know till the fire department shows up. We're really excited they're going to come to Club 4 and tell us what's really involved. The last time I spoke to somebody was a week ago, last Wednesday, so it was like 10 or 12 days ago. And I asked the question specifically, the fireman who's out here doing an inspection for a wiring job for the fire pump in building 11, actually. And he said in the buildings he inspects, he needs the things I listed to you. But that inspector for our building is somebody different who might want something different. Not very helpful, but I'm taking what that guy said and said we have to have our fire stuff working. It just happens to be what we need to get rid of the fire watch. So it's kind of like the same thing to me, and hopefully we can go. We're kind of in blind till they talk to us, but we're very optimistic. I hope that's not stupid. The thing that we are going to talk about next is a little different. We have a couple things that aren't required that are still very important for us to understand. Until we get covered dumpsters, there's no place for you to put your trash. Even in our dumpster where we don't have food stuff going in for building 11, we find our resident raccoon throwing stuff out probably 4 or 5 days a week. It's gotten so bad, I'm going to buy a rat trap and stick it in there and see if I just kill some rats and some raccoons in the dumpster. That's kind of the other thing. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but I don't have a good answer for you to put your trash right now. And it's kind of stupid. I can't believe I don't have covered dumpsters. And by the way, we're not going to have buildings 1 through, clubs 1, 2, and 3 are not going to have trash rooms that meet the code that allow us to open up the trash chutes until they get walls and doors and whatever fire protection systems they had in them. I learned just in the last week that there's actually sprinklers in our trash chutes. I had no idea they had sprinklers in the trash chute. I learned that because they have a special valve for it, and I asked what the valve was for. So when we do this and we get people down here, you'll be carrying your trash down first in the stairwell, and when we get an elevator, in the elevator, the trash chute's going to have to be secured until they're no longer considered a fire hazard. In that whole relationship is going to be, I encourage everybody to practice carrying trash, walking down some stairs. It was harder for me than I thought. We're kind of at the stage where we're getting close to we're waiting for the inspection will tell us what we need. But the other thing we always talk about is the elevator. And the elevator is harder thing to answer. First of all, people asked me what was the plan for which door we're going to do first, and I had kind of a plan. Well, that threw out the window the second or third day when I found out they had no electronic parts, but they had doors. So in fact, as of yesterday, about 6 o'clock, buildings 5 through 12 have every elevator door hung. No working elevators, no working electronics behind it, but we got the doors hung, which at one time we thought might be our bottleneck. And we had this sophisticated order we were going to bring the doors up. Well, they had people put all the doors in, so they put them all in. Buildings 1 through 4 used a different firm. They have converted to using the same firm, but they did not get their deposits in order the doors as soon as we did. So they're coming, I would assume, in a week or two. I don't really know, given Thanksgiving, what's going on. But
Scott, there's more users waiting, I think.
Yes, there are.
One,
You have to admit more people now.
I admitted the one person who's waiting, yeah. So the answer in the elevator is we have doors. Please don't confuse that with a working elevator. It just means you can't walk into the elevator pit, which makes me happy because that helps make the place a little safer. But it's really, you know, disconcerting to think that you have an elevator behind it. We have supposedly got all the parts ordered. They're going to be making some fittings up to hold the stuff to the wall properly because they have to be sized and positioned differently than what they got from the factory. I have no idea when they're going to work, but the current rate, it sounds like we'll have the elevator working before we have phones working to the elevator, which is my last big comment for the evening. That is, we have both a legal and, quite frankly, an ethical obligation to provide a way for somebody who's stuck in the elevator to call out. It's exceptionally important because our elevators will have spent some number of days, actually weeks in most cases, but building one, 53 days from one of their shafts is still underwater. We haven't got the door open to pump the water out yet. So these elevators are going to be much more likely to fail than ever before because everything's gotten wet, and rather than fix everything that's wet, they're trying to get it up and running as soon as they can, and then they'll have it ready to go with the parts. And they come in with more spare parts. They get more elevators working. Literally, everybody who's using Oracle, our firm, everybody's using them once their elevator fixed first. They're trying to service all of their elevators, and they literally have an almost infinite number of elevators right now. The people working on our elevators, 2 of them are from Cocoa Beach or somewhere over there, and 2 of them from Atlanta. There's nobody local hanging our doors. But we got people here hanging doors, and that's, you know, a huge success. One of the benefits to hanging the doors, it takes about half a day to hang the doors. When they get the parts, it's a half day they don't have to spend to get that elevator working. The phone, as I mentioned before, is a real issue. And the vendor we used, who said he had it working and tested, when I went out to test it on Thursday with the elevator people, it didn't even have voltage. And when we went down and looked at it with the vendor on Friday, even though they said they tested it, it worked. It had never been powered up, and it appears the fiber optic line they were using is cut also. So it was pretty disheartening. I think we have a solution to. We have no idea. I have 2 other solutions we are working on. I won't go into them unless somebody asks the technical questions. None of them are guaranteed. They're all different than what we've done in the past. It's very clear talking to CenturyLink, or not talking to them, depending on your perception, that they don't have a lot of interest in coming down the street. The problem with CenturyLink is they need the wires are in very bad shape. They were underwater for many hours, and the posts that held them are all tilted 45 degrees or more. They're sand encrusted, and I don't know if they're salvageable. So I think the problem is there aren't that many people buying landlines from CenturyLink, so they'll never make the money back from having to run new twisted pair down the street. So I don't know if that'll ever be an option. What you're supposed to have in your elevator, by the way, is a landline to the phone. That's not going to be our option, so we're going to have to do something different than that. And hopefully the county will let us get away with whatever we're doing, because what they'd like us to do is not an option. So the elevators will probably work before we get working phones at this stage, but about every 3 or 4 days, it appears that whatever I think is the bottleneck shifts to something else. So please don't hold me to it, and please don't get surprised when we say next time we meet, it's a different bottleneck. What will happen is something will get fixed and something we didn't know won't work, or some part we were expecting is not available. I don't know. But I would not plan on the elevators being useful before January. I'd like to think that'll happen, but I don't think it will. I think we'll have, depending what the inspector says, if he says we're good to go, I think we're close in a couple of weeks for the other buildings to get the ability for owners to be there. But you also have to remember, building 2, you're not going to be able to get in the parking lot for a while unless you have a bicycle, because the entry is about 3 feet wide, 4 feet wide. The rest of it's a hole. Building 3's got a hole that if you don't pay attention, you're going to put your car in, you're not going to be happy. So it's still going to be a kind of an iffy place. But we're looking at getting some progress here. And those people who live here and want to put up with it, it makes total sense to give it a try, as long as you have an escape path for the fire alarm. And for those of you who aren't here, you might now want to rush down if you can avoid it, because to we're kind of comfortable the alarm's working, and you can park your car in the garage and stuff. Probably not a great place. For all the people who had storage units that were on the ground floor, except for those people in building 4, 7, 9, and 11. All of them are gone. Some of 4, some of 7 are gone. All of the other buildings have no storage units on the ground floor. So just whatever you had in there is gone, and you won't be able to use it. And they're going to work hard to get them back in. But even when they're built, we'll be putting in plumbing and electrical stuff, so you won't be able to use the space for a while. While they're constructing that, you can assume there'll be a lot of noise and dust, because there will be. We've extended the time contractors can work till December 31, which I don't think is a big problem, because most of them don't want to do a lot of work without the elevator, but some are still doing work. Building 6 had a crane yesterday or Friday bringing in some stuff. I think it was appliances, but I don't remember. And when you come down here, understand that we're going to have a lot more dust. My wife washed our car yesterday and was complaining today that because we had a windy day, our car was covered with sand. The stuff you used to have protecting you from the sand isn't there anymore. There's no berm protecting you from the sand. There's no trees, none of that stuff. So it just gets dirty really quick. But that's my stuff about the condo. I have one comment, quick comment about insurance. Insurance we discussed more next meeting with Tom Keyser. But until that time, I'm going to mention to you, we have an insurance committee, somebody there from every club. Adjusters are coming out. In fact, they're coming out interesting days, Saturdays, Sundays. Next Friday after Thanksgiving and next Saturday, I'm scheduled to meet with them to try to fill the holes so we can make it safe for people to walk around. Work is being done, and I think there's even progress being made. I don't think anything's definitive enough yet to share it, but they're working at it and we're getting progress, and they'll have a presentation next week. At this time, I'm going to open up to anybody who wants to ask questions. John, is there anything more you wanted to say?
No, that's right. We can talk about doors another time. It's not that critical.
The brief introduction, John, from doors, please. I forgot about that.
Okay, so as Scott mentioned, essentially all the doors at Barefoot for the ground floor stuff, storage lockers, maintenance rooms, airways, all that kind of stuff are either gone or trashed or unusable because they've been soaked in water and their guts are no longer providing the structural support that they need to. So we're looking to find the right door across all these different applications. And one of the applications that has the greatest number of doors is owner storage units. And we're hoping to find a composite or fiberglass door so that we don't have to worry about them rusting anymore. I just got another spec this last week, thanks to Jamie Lancey's help, and we're now going to run that to ground with Collier County. There are some negatives associated with that door. I won't get into the details of it, but we're doing our best to find the best door selection for not only all the owner units, but also maintenance rooms, stairways, and trash rooms.
Okay. Are there any questions then? Lori, you have a question?
Yes, this is Rick. I'm from Rick Butts, Lori's husband. I am from building 10, 267 Barefoot, PH4. My question is that you talk about each club having things done, and you're running the show there. And my question would be is, are we submitting the bids towards 13 buildings, or are we piecemealing these by club by club by club? And
it varies.
And if so, I mean, don't you think that there should be a specialist that's heading this operation, and should we at least get some good people behind the general contractors that are going to do all the work and get this done in a good amount of time? It seems like it's been dragging on here for quite some time, and I've seen a lot of progress in Naples at another condo that they've gotten so much more done, and it seems like we're dragging our feet here for some reason. I don't understand what's taken so long.
Well, the first comment I have is I'm working 80 hours a week for 50 days. So I want you to know we're working really hard. Naples didn't get the storm surge we did. The walls weren't torn down in most cases. We have a different problem. It took us 6 weeks to get power back for some of the buildings. Each building's different, each development's different, and we're working at it pretty darn hard. And I think if you saw what was here and you saw what was there, you'd come to the same conclusion. I assume the place that had a lot more done got power in faster than 6 weeks. I don't know. I don't know what the status was, but we're working very hard to get there. And we aren't working on the rebuild yet because we haven't got into the buildings yet. We can't move in. We don't have permits yet. We have an engineer retained. We retained him, I don't know, within 3 days or 2 days of the hurricane. We've had people come in here looking at bidding to do the rebuild. I'm not going to talk about the rebuild very much because I'm not involved with it. I'm focusing solely on getting us into the buildings. And that is a incredibly full-time job. And there's other people who are working on the rebuild, and it's just getting started. But for example, we don't have the stuff from the insurance company to allow us to fill in the holes. So if we want to get our money from the insurance company, they have to send adjusters out to look at it. So I guess we can start building it. We just don't get that insurance part of the claim. So it's not that we're being lazy or not thinking it through. We're trying to do this very intelligently.
No,
And I don't have anybody coming.
I'm not suggesting, listen, please, I'm not suggesting that that you're being lazy. I'm just saying you're putting in so much time. And I think that I would just like to be reassured that we have a general contractor or a engineer that's, going through each building, because you think that we would have power in numbers, having 13 buildings, that contractors would be standing in line to help us out because there is so much work to go through.
Oh my goodness. You are so confused. The contractors are not standing in line at all. We are all standing in line trying to line up a contractor. There is way more work than there are people, and nobody wants to do a big project, and it's getting difficult to find people. There are stories we go on trying to get vendors here, but it's incredibly difficult. We have an engineer. The engineers walked through at least 3 times. His name is Gary Foreman. We've talked to him on a very frequent basis. We have the 3 clubs that need to rebuild stuff have all agreed to use one contractor. His name, I believe, is what is Walker's whole name? We call him Walker, to do the rebuild. But right now, I know they're working getting permits. So it's not that nobody's working on it. We don't have permits. We can't fill in the holes without the insurance stuff, and we're working very hard at it. I'm not sure it always makes the same sense to use the same vendor. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But if you think that there's any vendor looking for business here, you are so confused. They are just never been this empowered. That's all I can say. They've never been anywhere near this empowered, and they let you know it. And rates are incredible. The prices are insane. Yes.
This is John. This is John Englander. Thank you for an incredibly efficient description of what's going on. I actually was down there for a while and just left yesterday. The thing that I'm sure everyone who's there must be frustrated about is that you can't get that rubble off the side of the road where we are, as opposed to, just down, the rest of the block where the single family homes are. What do you know about that? What's FEMA saying?
I believe it was something like each of the small homes had to pay 25 grand to get that rubble removed. And we're hoping not to spend 25 grand per owner. I don't know if that's the exact number. That's the number I hear tossed around. They retained a private firm. And so like when I drove in here on Sunday, which was this morning, there was a private truck here hauling stuff off at, we got here like 7 in the morning. FEMA comes through here. They were here today. Today they picked up trash, not brush, not concrete. They come through here on a fairly regular basis. They have not picked up any concrete. They've not picked up an appreciable amount of concrete. They picked up lots of brush, but every time they pick it up, we get our whatever you want to call our landscape people, we call it landscape, cutting down trees and brush and refilling the stuff by the road. There's still people pulling stuff out of the mangroves or wherever and putting it on the street. So they picked it up today in front of our house, all the trash, but we still have the concrete. I've heard, and so much of the data I've heard is incorrect. I'll share with you what I've heard. I was told that right now the county does not want them picking up concrete until they find a way to grind it. And so they're kind of delaying that. But I met with FEMA, and FEMA said they have a plan in place, and they're now working on Hickory Boulevard, picking up concrete. When they're done with Hickory Boulevard, they're going to come on down here. But that's just one FEMA worker, and I have no idea what their accuracy is. But in terms of problems, getting the trash by the side of the road seems so distant compared to getting enough of a fire line we can actually move in, that we're kind of concentrating getting people back in, and we'll worry about the trash on the side of the road as soon as we get, the other stuff handled.
And FEMA pays people by the load, and they don't pay them by the weight. So a brush is a whole load to somebody, so they'll pick up brush rather than concrete. Plus, I heard their concrete breaker upper had failed, and they're having trouble with that. So that was the other piece of that not happening. But we were told that it might be 4 to 6 months before that was all picked up because of the volume all over.
And the FEMA person told me it might be faster. We'll wait and see. Sam, you have your hand up?
Yeah,
Right.
very good job, Scott. Thank you. My question is, you talked last meeting about the fire pump for 6. Can you just give us an update on that, please?
Sure, it's going to be a little technical. The fire pump that was damaged weighed 800 pounds. Dave, myself, and Mike got it out with the help of Oracle. We got the 600-pound one up to the second floor, and Dave and myself and Mike got it in place. Very proud and fun project, actually. I'm tired of electrical and plumbing problems. At least I had a mechanical one this week. We got it all aligned good enough the way I used to line the prop of my airplane. But when the guy came out to inspect it, he said, nope, not accurate enough. We need to hire a specialized firm to use a laser to line it up. They're coming on Wednesday. And he said, nope, I won't start the motor. I need somebody else to start it. So we have a specialist electrician showing up on Tuesday to start our motor.
Well, you're like Superman.
That's not what I'm thinking.
That's what
And by the way, on Friday, I was so excited.
That's my point exactly, Scott. You're in the hole, you're doing all the work, and we're relying on you. If you go down, we're screwed, basically. So I mean, what I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to be combative. I'm trying to work with you and say, look, I think don't you think that we need somebody else that's going to be spearheading this in different sections? Take one section and have somebody take care of it, electrical. Then you got the elevators, you got doors, you got so many things going on. You can't do everything, is what I'm saying.
Right. I'd love for some more people coming out and help. Getting vendors to do it has not been successful for us. We have to beg and plead. Just so you know, with that pump, I'll give you some more data. I don't mean to date you data. The pump guy said he was too busy to do anything for a couple of months. But if I got it up there and I got it kind of aligned, he'd come out. Otherwise, we were going to wait months to get it in place. So there's an example. If we just left it with the contractor, it wouldn't have gotten done. And I have, because of the EV project that I've been in charge of, I have a relationship with multiple electricians who actually know us and know how we work. And so I've gotten special favors from electricians no contractor would ever get. And we had a problem with quite frankly, we had a problem with our electrical system. The Friday we went live, and to keep the FP&L from leaving, my wife and I had to go up and disconnect us from the generator, take the generator leads down, and do all that stuff you aren't really supposed to do. So FP&L wouldn't leave so we could get power back that week. I'd love to have additional helpers down here technically skilled to help me. But if I left it to a contractor, we'd be like all the other firms, all the other places. It's going to be many more months out. We have short-circuited so many of the delays because, quite frankly, I'll say something, we need this now. We don't have a board meeting. I call up and say, somebody's got to pay this. We need to order it today. Let's go. And it's a much shorter process. If we had a contractor in place, literally they're talking about 10 months across the street from us. And I hope to be up in 3.
Rick, the guy you're looking for doesn't really exist in Florida. We'd have to go to Texas or Connecticut or someplace like that. We'd have to find a place for this guy to live. I mean, just the logistics anymore just make this probably the best way to do it.
Trust me, I'm tired of working these days this many in a row, but I don't see any other way to get it done. When I came down there and volunteered to do this, I figured it'd be 2 weeks and we'd have power. It's not like I don't know how to do this. It's not like I haven't done it before. I've just never done it this way, let me tell you. I've never been involved with a disaster that's taken up 300 miles of coast.
Scott,
It's Maddie.
Scott, you're doing a great job. you and your team have done an awesome amount of work. Under bad conditions. And we are so grateful to you. And I just want to ask about, is the Prepared Food Fund still, is it been exhausted, or do you need more help? And how can we give some help?
Kathy, do you want to speak to that? I don't see your face, but I'm sure you're here. Kathy Gazzardo?
I'm here. I'm here. For some reason, my video won't show, but other than that, yes, I can answer that question. Everybody has been so generous and it's been wonderful and very well supported. We still have a lot of money left. This next week is Thanksgiving week, so we're cutting back because there will not be that many volunteers nor workers. But we are going to continue to provide lunches, and we will work on that in December to figure out how our December will go. But I still have plenty of money, so there's no need yet. I'll let all of you know if I ever get to the point where we are getting low on support or funds for the lunches. Everybody's been wonderful, and the volunteers have been wonderful too. So I thank everybody for that. And I thank you for asking the question.
One thing I'd like to mention that I forgot that's important here, and I'll get right to you, Maddie, next. You'll be next, Maddie, is if there are more volunteers down here, we have more things for volunteers to do. But as always, they're not exciting things. They're menial and some of them are physical. We've got light bulbs we need to insert. We got lenses to put in, light fixtures. We got some bush to pull from the bottom of the swale up to the road so you get picked up again. So if there's anybody down here in Florida who wants to, contribute some more hours, we haven't run out of tasks at all in any way, shape, or form. They're not fun, but they're there. Maddie, please, you've been waiting so patiently.
Oh, that's okay. Probably won't want to hear what I have to say anyhow, because it would involve all of us. I'm not down there, sadly, because I would be one of those workers, even at my age. But I think, Scott, maybe if you gave everybody an idea of the kind of workmanship or the kind of person you would need to replace you in some of these projects that you're working on, you might find that out of our 350 unit owners, that there are people very qualified for some of these different jobs. So maybe I'll be the one to put it out there and say, is anybody out there to help Scott right now? He needs a break. I haven't talked to him personally, but Scott, yay to you. And you have done a fabulous job. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. We all, I think, feel the same way. But I'm looking now for the real volunteers who have been in those businesses, who maybe have done some of those things in their businesses that they've retired from. Sorry, I don't, but just putting it out there as a suggestion.
Well, the ones that are probably most useful are if you run an elevator company or at least know what a governor does in an elevator, please give me a call. We're looking for elevator expertise. If you know how to align a motor with a laser beam, boy, I'd be happy to hear that right now. We've used people who know how to essentially install and remove a master service to your electrical system while it's hot and while it's cold. Those are all things that I've done in the last week. Fire alarm expertise, really helpful, by the way.
Maybe we need an electrician to head that group up, a plumber to head up another group. It's out there. Just think about it. All of you, men, women, maybe your children are in that business too. Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions? Sam, your hand's still up. I presume I answered your question.
Yeah, you did.
I can't see everybody. Are there any other hands up? Anybody else wants to speak?
So Turner's would like to speak. Scott.
Okay,
Bill Turner.
Bill, go.
Unmute himself.
I don't even see him.
He's down here. Maybe I can do it.
Okay, I did it. Okay, I'll start over. You mentioned something about CenturyLink and the phone to the elevator. Have we considered talking to Hotwire about a potential helper in this and getting
Yes, we've
rid of
talked to Hotwire,
CenturyLink?
we've talked to Summit, we've talked to CenturyLink, talked to Pierre. we're investigating it all. Right now, the hot wire fiber seems to be bad. It's a current thought, just so you know. So we're
Seems to be
working on it.
bad.
On Friday, it appeared the cable didn't work. They put in place to
Okay.
do it.
Okay. Just a thought.
Well, it's a good one. If you can think of somebody
Well, I
other
can
than
call-
CenturyLink Hotwire Summit, please let me know, because that's kind of the three I came up with.
Well, I can call anybody at Hotwire anytime you want, so. But if it didn't work, it didn't work. That's
Well,
okay.
Pierre is working with Hotwire on it right now, is my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody sent a chat and asked if, who should they contact if they want to volunteer for one of those positions? So whether it's you or whether it's Kathy, who should
It'd
they
be me.
contact? Yeah, okay. So whoever it was that asked that question, just drop a note off to Scott. Thank you, guys.
And there's two types of help. One, if you think you take over one of the technical jobs, and they're all really technical, so don't try to fake it on that. And then there's also ones who just need to do labor and really be helpful to get.
They list the things they need and then have people sign up.
Wow.
That's what she was trying to say.
Scott, this is Kathy. I don't have a question as much as I have people who have been emailing to me or talking to me and asking me about the assessments and about how to reconcile this to their insurance. And because there's a lot of people on tonight, I just want to reiterate what we have said before, that Florida statutes, it is in place that every condominium owner in their insurance has a spot for assessment loss. And this means if you receive assessments for work that needs to be done for damages, you may file that claim with your insurance company. And after your small deductible, I believe, you will receive money. Normally, it's $2,000 of loss assessment. With a $250 deductible, it could be more than that. But I just want to make you all aware that are here tonight that hadn't heard this before, that this will be available to you.
By the way, to add something to that, that particular policy is for wind-related aspects of damage. It is not for, it's not flood insurance. It's wind only. That's why when you start to get assessments from the COA or your club, the assessments will be broken out for wind and then all other. And so it is that wind portion that you will be able to submit to your insurance company, and will be, it's a $2,000 minimum with a $250 deductible, if I remember correctly.
I have a question. Okay for a question?
Yes, go.
Yeah, hi, this is Greg Britt, 10604. Along with the lines of insurance, also, you know, as far as the IRS, you can claim a casualty loss as well. So my question is, you know, we have the dollar amounts. Is there a description of what those dollar amounts cover? In other words, you know, $7,000 is to pay for this, that, and so forth. So there's some description behind that. All we have now is a dollar amount. Is that possible to have a list of what the monies are being used for? To replace, repair, etc., you know, more finite. Insurance companies or the IRS usually want to know those details.
I can answer to a certain extent, but I'm not really the best answer for that. For Club 4, which is where I'm on the board of, we have a pretty extensive spreadsheet listing items down to literally $100 in expense for that. Each of your other clubs is going to do it however they want. I'm sure before we're all done, they're going to have a pretty detailed list because everybody's going to need it. And I certainly assume the COA is going to do it also, but it's going to be done at the club level. And I hope they're all doing it. We did it for Club 4, and it was, it's a little frustrating because the list gets longer pretty much every day.
Yeah, no, that answers the question. So the clubs will do it, and also the COA will do the same thing. And you know, that would be for this tax year and insurance year, and there will probably be additional for next year. But it's good to have it all in the year that it happens.
Scott, I have also a question, another one.
Certainly, Sam.
How much is the insurance company giving us as far as support. It reminded me, I did a lot of work in New Orleans after the big one there. And I was working with State Farm, and they had assembled a huge team to help these owners. So I don't know how close we are with our insurance. It sounds like they're very cooperative, but maybe they can help you with some support of other services.
We are involved, we get the assessors down here, but the fact that, you know, literally 53 days out of the hurricane, I still don't have an assessor down enough I could fill up the 6-foot hole in the driveway, gives you a hint that they're overwhelmed. And what you saw with State Farm is going to the individual owners, and that's a separate problem from getting the association covered. And so the association's dealing with a different problem than having one go out and deal with the homeowners. I'm not familiar with the homeowners insurance policy because, quite frankly, we don't really have much. In Club 4, there wasn't a whole lot of damage for a lot of the owners. So we don't have an insurance claim for anything other than a $2,000 wind.
Okay.
But again, I should mention to you, the insurance expert, Tom Kieser, will be on next time. He'd be a much better source for all the answers to all these insurance questions.
Yeah,
I think whatever I say was a grain of salt.
I would like to second that, Sam. This is Kathy Gazzardo. I'd like to second that once we get Tom Kieser on next week, he'll be most helpful with talking with you and maybe even getting together with you with more ideas of what you did down in New Orleans. So it could be very helpful, but next week we should have more information from Tom Kieser.
I'd like to, I don't think we're gonna have this meeting next week unless you guys want it. I was thinking we'd have it in 2 weeks. I think every week's a bit intense. But one of the questions I want to ask people, does in 2 weeks sound good to everybody, or do they want it sooner or later? What would you like? Okay, like 5 people voted yes, voting's done, we're moving on.
Question.
Go.
What are your honest appraisal of some of us coming down, if we know the hardships, et cetera, no elevators, mess coming down for January or February?
What building?
5.
I think without the fire department showing up, we should have no problem meeting the obligation by January 1. But after I talk to the fire department, we find out what they want for 9 and 11, and I get some questions, I have much better data. The problem is literally they do not tell us what they want. Literally, we don't know what's required by law outside of the things that stand a fire watch. So if it's just that, I believe we'll have all the fire pumps, all the fire alarms working before January. Actually, it has to be working before December 15th, because getting a person out here after December 15th is going to be kind of a lost cause. So I basically have 2 weeks to get it all done, and I think we'll make it. But again, you know, if one of the fire alarms has some sensor go bad that we can't buy a replacement for, and that's a possibility, all this goes out the window. We have something called an enunciator panel. We have had 13 of those failed. In scouring the country, including eBay, we found 3 of them. The good news is the fire department has allowed us to have a waiver on that because they know they no longer make them. But what happens if they change their mind? So we don't really get, there's no firm answer here, not because I'm being a jerk, it's just because I don't get firm answers from the people who make the decisions. I still might be a jerk, that's just not the reason why.
So Scott, are you the primary contact, the person talking with the fire department or other people there?
That is Mr. Montaigne.
Mr. Montaigne. So they have a sense of urgency trying to develop that?
They are a monopoly and work for the government. No, they do not.
No, I know. Of course.
Greg, I've had a contact there that has been responsive, but not terribly forthcoming in answering the questions that Scott's outlined there. So I've been in contact with him at least every week since the hurricane, and he's I would say provided some suggestions and is appreciative of the continuing updates. So we hope that we've built some rapport and some goodwill with them, and that that when they do get here, that they will find things as we've told them that they are, and therefore will, you know, and therefore they'll allow us to get in as soon as we all think and they approve our entry.
Thank you.
Scott, can I ask another one?
Certainly,
You
Bill.
answered building 5. What would be the answer to that same question for building 8?
I think building 8 could go earlier. But I mean, now we're pitting things down, and you have to remember, there's gonna be a problem. I don't know how important it's gonna be till I hit it, and how bad it'll be to fix. The
Mhm.
problem always is, until it's done, I don't really know what the next obstacle is gonna be, whether it be what the city wants, the county wants, or the next
Yeah.
problem we fix.
Okay, thank you.
I do have 2 quick comments I want to make. The question is, how do you contact somebody for help? The day before you get down here, you text me, you go through the office. I will give you a hint of what I think you'll work on the next day. And about half the time I'm right, and half the time something more important comes up and we switch it. But examples of the things are literally putting light bulbs and fixtures in the stairwells, making sure all the stairwells have lights on, getting all the bricks and stuff out of the stairwells, so the fire inspector will let you have the stairwells. Because some people have put, their condo watchers have put their trash in the stairwell landings. Some people have bricks blocking open doors. None of that will pass a fire inspection, so we're gonna need to make sure that stuff gets cleaned up. When they took all the metal trash out from building 11, there's a lot of bush that was far enough away that it could get moved forward. Now we could move forward, so it could get picked up the next paths like that. Though we had like 50 of the exterior lights that had the lenses on them, the white clear plastic, translucent plastic, that we now need to get put in place. It's chores like that. You know, the light fixtures need to go in place, not for the fire department, but because rain is damaging the fixture internals where the light bulbs go. Getting the bush pulled up so it gets picked up for free by FEMA. Getting the stairwells cleared up so you get your permit. By the way, I strongly encourage you to have your condo watchers not put any crap in the stairwells, please. Because we don't have good trash service, this condo watchers just put trash in the stairwell landings. I think that's a good behavior.
They should take it with them.
I understand what they should do and what I've actually asked one, and she looked at me and said, I'm not doing that. I'm just leaving it here. And she walked off. What am I going to do, you know?
Not cool.
I have a healthy disrespect for condo watchers I did not have 2 months ago, okay? Very healthy disrespect.
Some on offline, someone asked me questions about that caused me to kind of make this following comment. As many of you know, but maybe don't necessarily keep top of mind, is that we lost our general manager shortly after the hurricane, and the other part that when you compare this to Barefoot to other clubs or other condominiums, some of those other condominiums may have a full service agency doing their management. Barefoot has never wanted to do that. There's a lot of negatives associated with doing that. And as a result, it falls to the COA board, to your board members, and to owners to pitch in and put Barefoot back right again. One of the reasons why we've been dissatisfied or not attempting to go to a more full service agency is for many of the things that Scott said earlier about the relationships that have been built up over several years with particular vendors and how we've been able to get them to come do stuff for us because of those relationships. Had we had one of these full service, so to speak, agencies, that stuff is unlikely to have happened. Just too many examples to go into as to how quickly many of these guys like Beaumont and the plumbing, JC Plumbing, and Legacy Legacy, the fire department, fire safety guys, Emergency One. I mean, the list is long.
I'll go
I
through
have
some of
a
the,
friend, excuse me, I have a friend who is in a condo at the end of Hickory Boulevard. They just now, a week ago, got a generator, and they have an outside management company. So the company is located in California.
I will share this. Many things happened here because we did things with a shortcut that a management company would not do.
Right.
We had a tremendous number of things where
Exactly.
I needed to check yesterday, and Ken Edelbrock brought a personal check in to cover something. I'm sorry, on Friday. And Ken brought personal check-ins. We got the check out that day. There's all kinds of things we did that would never have happened without owners actively involved.
Exactly.
and the number of things I've done to get the power in a hurry, and the fire pump. Management office would never be able to do that. We'd still be waiting months to get the fire pump fixed. I mean, that's just the way it is. There are a bunch of questions I've not answered. I'll try to get a couple of them in here. They're on the side. Can I just go through ones on the side first, Pat? I really don't know when the buildings are going to be available, and everybody asking me, it's just a guess. I'm thinking we'll have most of them going by January, but it's a guess. We had lots of discussions about public insurance invest in adjusters. That'd be a good question for Tom Keyser. The building contractors who've worked with the county for years are working and getting their permits. Status of water in the condos. We've had water in the condos for pretty much over a month. Do I know anything about the beach area? No. The beach area is a very litigious, environmentally sensitive area with lots of information that's almost all incorrect. My experience of having been through this twice before in the association is in a year or two, they'll tell us what we have to do. They don't really care about our input. But the county, the state, the city, the federal government will all get together and argue over what has to be done, and then they'll tell us. Like I said, contact the office or me the day before you get here. We have work for you. Let's see. Are there any other questions I missed that people want to have answered now? Maddie, you're muted. You're muted.
I'll do quickly. I've heard a lot of stories about the beach area, and that's one thing that I haven't heard anybody talk about, but I hear that there's red tide there now. I heard through all of you, through the report, that Collier County has taken on cleaning up the entire beach, including Barefoot Beach, even though it was a private area. When do we know when they intend to start that process? It doesn't sound like it's.
Maddie, last two times they did that, it was, if I remember correctly, it was over a year before they told us what was going to go on. And then we got the big assessment. Last time we had replenished the dunes. And so I think that any data you get today that we pass on is going to be highly questionable. Based on our prior experience, we'll be told sometime in the future what the government's going to require us to do. And they always say somebody else will pay for it. And they always say somebody else will pay for it. But in the end, we've always had to pay for it. The last two times we've done it. I'm pretty sure the third time it's not going to change, but we can hope, and maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. Any other questions? About pictures for the complex? We sent them out a couple hours ago. Hopefully everybody got the pictures for the complex. We sent out before and after ones. My wife did that.
I sent a link to everybody on chat. If you want to check the chat, there's a link back several answers back that gives you a link to that set of pictures. Tell you what, I'll send it out again. Okay, everyone who wants to check their chat, there's a link to pictures.
Are there any other questions? Hi,
Yeah,
Dick.
I got one. I got my hand up.
Dick,
Scott.
I said hi, Dick.
Oh, okay, sorry. On the question about the beach, Collier County has done a lot of work on the beach, cleaning them up, raking them. You just can't imagine how much work they've done. However, Hurricane Nicole negated a bunch of it, created a berm, and we actually, during Nicole, had water almost up to some of the garage floors because there was a lake between the new berm and the garages. So, you know, every time you have a storm, thing changes. That's all I can tell you. But Collier County has been working on the beach very, very much.
The beach is gorgeous. I should mention this. The beach has never looked so good. You can stand in the parking lot on the oceans and the Gulf side buildings, and it looks like you're in the Cayman Islands. All you see is sand all the way to the water. It's the most beautiful beach I've ever seen. There's no protection for the water coming in, but it's really pretty. And we used to have a place in the Cayman Islands. Any other questions? You can take your hand down, Dick. Sam, I presume you're still good?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks. Sorry.
Broad occupancy by club? I hope soon. I don't control it. I don't have any idea what the problems are going to be. I can't give you more data than that.
Hey,
We do not
Scott, it's
know what the-
Rosalie.
Pardon
Sorry,
me?
sorry, I was gonna ask a question if you were done.
Sure.
Okay, and I know we've got Tom coming with the insurance information, but just to clarify, I assume that the notice that we have so far is sort of a proposal, needs to be approved, et cetera. So I'm assuming the insurance companies will want the final approved notice of whatever these assessments might be. Is that an accurate assumption, or hold off for Tom?
Well, first of all, we won't know all the things that were damaged for many months.
Right.
Literally, we find new damages when I walk through the building. I found something new on the 7th floor of building 11. I've been in this building every day for 50 days. And I just noticed it one day. It'll be, and I don't know if the insurance, it depends on the type of insurance. For our association, the insurance I've seen so far, they don't seem to really care about what our cost is. The National Flood Program has got an allocation scheme that they use. So if X occurs, here's where you get paid. It's a government-run program. They're the only ones who insure us. So we don't really tell them what it costs. They tell us what they'll give us.
You are right, Kathy. They do require the board action before they will consider any assessment, reimbursement, et cetera. They will not do it on your letter saying we're going to have it.
And the reason for that too is we need to give the 14-day notice by statute that we're having that meeting. So that's why you guys got the letter. The 14 days we'll have then the vote to make it official, and then that there'll be another thing that we'll send out the COA in each club to make it official. So you can use that document.
Yeah, okay, thanks. That's what I figured.
Scott, if I may. Scott, can I speak?
Sure.
Yeah, I am going through each and every club's itemized offer that we have from the insurance company on flood. We haven't got anything on the wind at this point in time. The intent is to go through that offer and I itemize it and compare it to everything that we see and look for any errors and omissions. That's where we're at right now. And then the intent is to go back to the adjuster with a request for adjustments on those numbers, because we found lights or sockets or whatever that they didn't include in the original offer. So that's the status right now. I think Scott, your club already did that evaluation. Next week, Club 2 is going to do that for its 4 buildings, and I'll have the forms for clubs 1 and 3 done by the middle of this week so that they can do the same thing. But it takes somebody who's got some technical acuity go through and look at it with a little different eye. There's some really interesting nuances, and I don't want to cover those right now because it would take too long and it wouldn't make sense to anybody anyway. But we're working on that, and again, that's going to determine what's going to happen with the assessments ultimately. Quick
I
question.
was the one who did that for Club 11. It took about 2 hours of building.
Yeah. Query. Quick question on the status of the swimming pool too. If we got any idea what's going on there.
Yeah, we're actively working to get a contractor, and that's where we're at. We've contacted at least 15. I've not followed it closely, and 1 responded, and he's not returning our calls right now. So we're actively progressing, trying to find a vendor who's interested in doing work with us.
Question.
5 or 6 said they at least returned the call and said, no, we're too busy. The other ones wouldn't even return our call.
Directed to the board of directors of the clubs as well as COA. If we're having problems getting, some of our equipment is outdated, we can't get parts, etc. Can we not replace it with updated equipment and not try to get old stuff working?
There is not a single component in our pool left. It was all washed out. Every pump, every heater, literally washed out. There's nothing to fix.
Well, I'm thinking of call boxes, I'm thinking of fire equipment.
All that's been yanked. Everything, our goal and our direction is everything that got wet, we want replaced. Now, the vendors aren't always doing it, but that's certainly where we're going to end up.
Okay.
And if it doesn't fail now, it'll fail rapidly. We're not trying to salvage anything, but we're dealing with the elevator guy wants to get our elevator working as soon as possible and get to the next elevator. FP&L wants to get us working, and I've got no influence in FP&L. I've got some relationships with them, but the guys I have relationships with aren't the decision makers, I've learned. So that's why we have a burnt transformer still in production. All the people I work with think it's really stupid. All the FP&L people say it's really stupid, but it's not their decision. It's coming from management. But the answer is there's not much we can salvage, to be honest. Almost everything has to be replaced. And we are looking at the pool at this time that we replace the equipment to make sure we learned what we've had in the last 2 years and what we can do better from what we had. That's actually been given to Scott Blackburn, and I'm just making sure he's got the support he needs and gets the questions we have. And he's down here working on it. He's the person in charge of that project.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate it.
For FEMA assistance, when we contacted FEMA a couple of times, for condo associations, they don't really have anything to offer. For individuals, they do. I've met with FEMA now probably 4 times. Apparently every owner who files with FEMA says they have to come talk to me. And so I tell the FEMA people the same stuff. How long will it be till we move in? Give them my best guess, but it changes every day. Next question.
Sorry, Scott, so to follow up on that, so we should individually be reaching out to FEMA for claims? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't think there's a lot there, but if you want something from FEMA, you have to reach out individually. I don't know how to do this. I'm literally getting, every time somebody calls them, they literally come to my door, knock on it and say, what's the estimate for somebody moving into this building? And somehow the answer is different today than yesterday, they think. I mean, I think that's going to be an interesting question, and I don't know how to do it. But there appears to be nothing they do at the association level. And I don't know what they're going to do at the individual level. I've heard all these wild stories about people getting FEMA aid. When I talk to the FEMA people, they don't give me that same feeling, so. We have dinner in the condo, my wife and I do every night. And FEMA knocks on my door between 6 and 6:30, pretty much every night to ask me about a building. We call her the FEMA lady, I don't know her name. But she literally knows what condo I live in. Knocks on the door. So.
I have a question. Does the state of Florida have any, or is the state of Florida offering any aid? I live in New Jersey, and when we had Hurricane Sandy, state of New Jersey had a program to help out. I haven't heard that the state of Florida has anything. Maybe Ron DeSantis is working on it.
Yeah, I remember when he said it'd be easy to get permits. That wasn't true. So I'm not holding my breath for all the good things the government's giving me. I just remember when they said, oh, there'll be no problem getting permits. That was a lie, by the way.
So the state isn't offering any funding to help.
No. Well, I should say, FEMA's clearing out that trash. Clearing out that trash is very expensive, and they're doing it at their expense. That's very helpful. The county's helping FEMA do that. I should say, so FEMA's just hauling the trash away, which is a large amount, would be very expensive for us. And they're saving us many, many hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to do that. I don't know what the number is, but it's pretty darn high.
So Scott, are you saying when it comes time to vote for DeSantis for president, we should remember what went on during Hurricane Ian?
Not at all. There's no political discussion here tonight. I don't want any. Just don't ever believe when they say the permits are going to be easy. That's a lie.
FEMA, tell you this, Fred, that FEMA has also been offering temporary shelter to people that have no place to go and have lost their homes, particularly Fort Myers Beach and Barefoot, Sanibel, places like that. So they have been offering that. I don't know where the people have relocated to or how successful it's been, but FEMA's been in charge of that.
My one comment is if you can't live in your condo and you own another house, I'm not sure if FEMA is going to really reimburse you for that. I don't know what the rules are, but my guess is that might be a little bit suspicious.
You're right.
Any other questions? Gail, don't look so happy. Gail's the beer lady. You're muted.
I just have to say that I've been down here quite a bit, and if you haven't been here, I think it's hard to really appreciate the full extent of everything that's happened, and also the full extent of all the people who are here working. And Scott and John have done an amazing job. I don't know where our association would be if it wasn't for them. And I'm very grateful, and I hope all the other condo owners are too. And I understand it's frustrating, but do appreciate they are doing everything that they can. And again, what Scott said earlier about if we had a different kind of management, we probably wouldn't be where we were today. So thank you, guys.
Are we done then? Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you very much for all your input. I didn't mean to say yay. So somebody else wants to join the meeting now. Okay. Well, Barbie joined at the right time. The meeting's now adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You.
Thank you.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thanks so
everything.
much.
Thank you. I agree. It is a lot rougher here.
Thank
than
you very
once get
much.
here. You see it.
Thank you from Helmut and Debbie.